Welcome to Daikaiju Network's TokuZone. I am your co-host Kent, and with me is
Jason,
your
what's
other
going
co-host.
on, everyone?
So here we are. We're continuing our retrospective on Johnny Sokko and his flying robot. This episode, we're going to be covering episodes 8 through 10, and that's really
Yep.
about it. So I think, really, unless there's some housekeeping stuff, Jason, you want to dive into a little bit of tokusatsu news, and then we'll get into covering
Well,
the
as always,
episodes.
before we get to the news here, I just want to do the usual housekeeping here as far as where to find us via through our live streaming networks and our podcast networks here. First off, our streaming networks: YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, Periscope, and D Live, and then our podcast networks: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and TuneIn. And then as far as social media, you can like and subscribe to us by going to these following social media networks. Just search for Daikaiju Network, and we also have our own website here. You can find us at daikaijunetwork.com. And then if I can bring up the main cam here, apparently the little screen capture thing that I had here is apparently not showing up, which is a bit disappointing here. I'm not even sure what else to do. A stupid program. But apparently, what my little um, browser window here is apparently showing me live is that the new Subaraya film, Ultraman Taiga, New Generation Climax, they just announced the release of the Blu-ray and DVD for this film, which just actually came out uh, early last month, and it's going to be released here on Christmas Eve of obviously December here. So basically, look out for that. Oh, there we go. Now it's showing up. I'm not sure why it didn't show up right away. So obviously, you can see the little screen capture here on YouTube and everything. And then yeah, so that's essentially about it for that. And then as far as related news, there's apparently sort of a main breaking news here at the top of Tokusatsu Network that apparently Toei, if we can go to this specific news article, registered a trademark for apparently what is the 45th installment of the Super Sentai series, which they trademarked Kikai Sentai Zengai Senkaiger. I probably botched that up a little bit, but apparently they just trademarked this. I'm not sure when specifically. I wonder if they have the date here. Um, Looks like September 23rd. So basically a few days ago when they registered the naming right for the apparently the newest 45th installment of the Super Sentai series here, which you can see the screenshot here in the main image, and then just a little bit of news bits right there. And then let's just sort of go back here, and I know um, Kira Monger Blu-ray collection releasing next month, and then there's the Ultra Replica Ultimate Bracelet from Ultraman Zero, which is announced for pre-order. And if we can kind of go down here, and also this is the one thing I wanted to also discuss about Garo Red. If you've he's famously known to being that sort of the evil doctor in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Unfortunately, he passed away a few days ago due to cancer. here. And if we can read some of this article here. According to his agency, Saito underwent surgery for pharynx cancer back in July and started receiving chemotherapy earlier this month to prevent a relapse. On Saturday evening, he felt ill during dinner and went to the hospital shortly after he passed away. And apparently,
Mm.
uh, or unfortunately, he was 69 at the time of his death there. So that's sad to hear about that news. Um, and then another sort of sad news that Kamen Rider Amazon's Takashi Fujiki found dead in his home. Uh,
Jeez.
let's read a little bit of this news item here. Takashi, who portrayed the chairman of Nozama Pharmacy and Kamen Rider Amazons, was found dead in his home by his son. His son lived with him and was out at the time of his death. According to his agency, Takashi's workload was cut due to the coronavirus, obviously. In addition to that, he had to refrain from going out. Takashi was to appear in a musical this coming January title parade, and unfortunately, he was 80 at the time of his death. So, unfortunately, we had a couple deaths within the last week there. So, I don't know if you have anything to touch upon those or any of the news items I've mentioned about.
I do have one thing to say, and I think it's something all of us can agree on, and that is screw you, 2020. Um, serious. This has been a year. I'm sorry. You probably, for anybody who's sensitive to language, you might want to cover your ears, but fuck this year. Seriously. I'm so sick of just the awfulness of that this year has brought.
Yeah, it's probably one of the craziest years ever. But unfortunately, some things can be fucking nuts, you know.
Knuckin' Futz?
But yeah, anyways, I think that's essentially about it of the news that I can think of, unless if you got anything else before we dive into the meat and potatoes of this episode.
Trying to think. I don't think there's anything that I've seen during the week, at least that I can remember off the top of my head, that is like newsworthy. I don't think so. So I'm just going to say no. If I remember anything, I'll bring it up, but
Mm-hmm.
otherwise I'm going to say no.
All right.
All right. So with that, let's dive into episodes 8 through 10 of Johnny Sokko and his flying robot. And we're going to do our continuation of, I'll say, the English followed by the Japanese title of each episode. And then we play not really a game, but sort of a fun little deal where we each sort of pick which title is better in our opinions. Um, Last time it was just really a toss-up for the most part with most of those
I
episodes.
I do
Uh,
have a feeling at least two episodes here are probably going to be one's going to be better than the other. I have a feeling with
so 2/3 of what we're
with the
saying
one
here.
being the very first one that we're going to be discussing about episode 8.
Yeah. Well, and the reason why we're doing this is not only just for something kind of fun to add to all this, but um, because with the big differences most of the time between Japanese and English, there's never you right words or phrases to accurately translate on one side or the other what the other side is trying to say. But then sometimes too, you get the English. Folks who sometimes think they can do better and rename or say things differently, and sometimes you get that with the Japanese side too. But the reason why we're also doing this is a lot of these episode titles are different enough that we just thought, why not even briefly bring those into discussion
Yeah.
as well, and kind of let
And
everyone know what the Japanese title is, and we just have a brief discussion through each episode we go through.
and when it comes to like this time span and everything, a lot of the English and probably over in Japan as well, uh, same thing when our stuff goes over there, that they probably tend to like really reduce some of the stuff. Even in the names, I mean, like Jerry and Johnny, those aren't their actual names according to the show or anything. And yeah, it's just a lot of times they'll tend to chop a lot of things up here and there. So
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead into episode 8. And so the English title of that one is The Challenge of the Two-Headed Monster. The Japanese title is The Challenge of Doublion, the Swivel-Headed Monster. Jason, which one do you prefer most?
I probably would say the Japanese version. Obviously, the challenge of the two-headed monster. What the fuck is that?
I agree. First of all, it is incredibly wrong. It's not two-headed. It's got two faces, but it's on one head. There are no two heads
Yeah.
to this creature. So, by definition, the English title is disqualified because it's wrong. It's not two-headed. So, yeah, I prefer the
If it
Japanese title
if it's
here too.
if it was sort of rephrased to two-faced monster, then it probably would
If
have
it
been a
was,
little bit better. But still, it would have been a lot worse compared to the original one.
I personally would think if they had changed it to the Two-Face monster, I would have preferred that because it just sounds so cool. Two-Face monster, just. All right,
But
so here's a.
But before that, I know you mentioned about the chat that we had here. I'm not entirely sure what's going on with that either, but if one of you is typing in there, sorry that we probably won't get around to get around with your chats
Yeah,
on our restream chat box here. I'm not entirely sure the reason why it's doing that. To be honest with you, but if you want to go over to YouTube there and just
that's
sort
what
of
I'm doing. I'm going over to YouTube. So if anybody goes over there and decides to type anything, I will be there to see what you type.
yeah, I was thinking about maybe going to. I can probably go over to Facebook as well just to check up on there as well, but we'll see.
So while you're doing that, I'm going to give the plot summary of episode 8, The Challenge of the Two-Headed Monster, or The Challenge of Doublion, the Swivel-Headed Monster. Three children go exploring for treasure in a mountainside cave. Instead, they find a gargoyle hideout with a rock monster hidden within the mountain. A one-eyed naval officer is escaping the gargoyle gang. Johnny and Jerry help him escape and take him to Unicorn to aid him. The officer says his children were held captive at a mountain by Gargoyle. Johnny and Jerry help him out, but the officer reveals himself to be a member of the Gargoyle gang named Harlequin. He attempts to trap Johnny, Jerry, and the three children with Doublion. Johnny calls Robo to help. Giant Robo battles Doublion while Johnny and the gang escape. During the battle, Johnny instructs Robo to destroy the mountainside base. This temporarily traps Harley Quinn and destroys Doublion. The day is saved for now. All right, going into a review and discussion. Of course, it's a Kenny that gets the children in trouble in a mountainside cave. When I
A
first
Kenny
heard
or
that,
Kenny's.
yeah, I just when I heard that, I'm like, of course.
I wonder if there's some sort of inside joke to many of these TV, like Japanese TV shows or movies, because it seems like a lot of them have a name of Kenny or whichever.
Well, it's sort of like here in the United States, you have, at least for men, common names like Matt, Josh,
John.
uh, Tom, John, everything, John. And it's just, it's Kenny could be a very popular name over in Japan. But I just thought it was funny. I'm like, of course it's Kenny. Like in all these kaiju things, it's always some sort of Kenny.
Yeah.
The funny thing about this episode, Because I do remember bits and parts of certain episodes of this, and like I stated when we first started going through this retrospective, that the last time I watched this series was almost 4 years ago. It was I spent a week in December of 2016 going through this series, and I remember once I saw this episode, this being one of the few episodes that really stood out for me because of the uniqueness of the creature,
Hmm.
Dublion, with the two faces, not two heads, English translators, it's two faces. Um, and I had totally forgotten Harlequin
Same
was
here.
one
That I was going to mention about that. That almost forgot about Harlequin in this.
and the funny thing is that, like, for example, I'm going on my fourth run through of the original Twilight Zone, and I tell you right now, I know all the twists of every episode, so it sort of is ruined for me, sadly. So a lot of the fun of those episodes is gone now. But maybe I need to do what I did with this show and ignore it for 4 years because, like I said, I totally forgot about it. Um, I didn't see coming the naval officer being a member of Gargoyle Gang. I totally had forgotten the swivel-headed monster until it actually showed up. Um, it's crazy. And maybe
Yeah.
that's what I need to do with Twilight Zone. Ignore it for like 4 or 5 years. Maybe I'll forget, but that's one of my favorite TV shows that I remember almost everything from
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Right now, I'm trying to find at least a picture of Harlequin, just to kind of show everyone here what he looks like. It's it's not what you think. It's not like the Batman
Of course, yeah.
Harley
But
Quinn.
Google thinks it probably will be.
Yeah, right now I just typed in Johnny Sokko Harlequin, but unfortunately, it seems like I'm not finding anything of the sorts for Harlequin. Just some images of Emperor Guillotine and Doctor
Go to
Botanist.
IMDb, type in Johnny Sacco, and they usually have like an episode list that you can click on, and they'll usually have a few pictures involved with each episode.
All right.
Um, One of the things that I found, and of course, as we've talked about ad nauseum up to this point with the series, is you really have to just go with the series. Otherwise, when you try to think of reason or logic with this series, it's going to fly out the window. And obviously, when Johnny, Jerry, and the kids are trapped by Harlequin and Gargoyle in the mountain, apparently, Johnny's watch. Well, not apparently, it does. Johnny's watch gets shot by Harlequin. It's kind of weird though how the bullet doesn't hit his wrist and hurt him
or
as well.
like
But
actually
okay,
go through not just
yeah,
the watch, but through his wrist there.
yeah. And so, of course, Johnny, just for the occasion, would have a spare watch on hand to call Giant Robo.
I would,
Yeah,
even though this is a kids show and everything, I
yeah.
probably would just call BS on that one.
Oh, it is, and the thing is, this is something we're going to continue to talk about with this series, is just sort of the fact that it really pulls a lot of stuff out of its butt. There are a lot of contrivances, and again, like Jason said, it is a kids show that happens a lot in kids shows. But as an adult, it really is whiplash inducing because it does take you out of it. You're just kind of like, wait a minute here. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of annoying and irritating, is what I'm getting at. But yeah,
Um,
what are you going to do?
yeah. Although I could not really find a image of Harlequin here, but I do know the name of the actor who plays as was it Black Dia slash Harlequin? It's Hideo Murota.
Okay.
That's about it. But unfortunately,
All
I'm kind of
right.
sad
So
that we
we're
aren't able to find a image online of Harlequin. So,
okay. Well, let me do a quick search while you do some talking points here before I try that.
but yeah, even uh, the scenes with Harlequin disguised as this ship captain being chased down by the Gargoyle Gang in this episode, just by looking at him right away in the first shots of this episode where he gets chased, that uh, probably one of the main features of Harlequin, even before while he's disguised as this ship captain, is the eye patch over the left eye in this, and um, uh, even just by the appearance of this guy and sort of his demeanor or behavior or mannerism, whichever you want to go with, is that he seems to be a bit suspicious right away. Even Marie, when he's brought to the Unicorn headquarters there.
Oh,
Uh,
oh, I found one.
why don't you send it over to me in the chat here so that I can link it up here in the browser. But even Marie, she was even suspicious of Harlequin or this ship captain, and then take them to this mountainside where the hideout was, and where Dublion, and then all of a sudden he turns into or changes into Harlequin. And I do like the voice for Harlequin here, the dubbed voice of Harlequin. But then it seems like I'm not sure what in the one of the next two episodes there that's for some reason that they changed his voice for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why, but it just
Different voice
yeah,
actor.
it just seems to be not quite not quite the match for Harlequin in the later versions of the show, and it seems like that they've also changed up sort of the hairdo for Harlequin because
We'll get there.
in this one is a bit different. But anyways, yeah, it's uh, as far as the appearance of Harlequin with him in this sort of black and white with some diamond
I
patterns.
sent the photo.
Yeah, I'll get to that here in a minute. He seems pretty badass in a way, no joke. But let me grab that image and put it up uh, on the screen here while you talk here.
So, I thought the battle between Dublion and Giant Robo was actually pretty fun. I liked how it was a lot of hand-to-hand combat, and I really enjoyed Dublion's ability to use the swivel head, where the one head shoots out sort of a gasoline type of substance, and then the other head turns around, shoots out a fire. I just think that's pretty fun. It's a unique way to utilize the two-faced creature. Um, the thing is, though, I'm a little confused as to how Dublion died. I don't know if that's something you can explain to me as far as what I got confused as to how he was, excuse me, dispatched.
hmm Um, give me one moment here. Trying to open it up. Oh no 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 no. Keep talking here.
But anyways, that's what I got. Outside of my final thoughts and my ratings
All right.
for this episode. It's a
Okay.
unique episode, I will say that. I really do love the creature Dublion. Harlequin is pretty cool, and this episode, like I said, is sort of full of surprises for me because it's been a while.
Yeah. So right now I've got it on screen, but for some reason, I'm not sure what the heck is going on with the window capture here for
Like,
this. Let's see here. The wonderful things of live streaming here.
just technology in general. For everybody who is not aware, in fact, you aren't going to be, of course. I was telling Jason, I had over 3 hours spent yesterday with my computer updating itself. It was a big Windows update. And I spent part of yesterday and even a little bit of today before we got on for our podcast having to go back and redo settings I had for adapters and programs. In fact, I thought to myself, I better check Skype. So I checked Skype, and it actually had to install Skype again. Um, so yeah, like technology, it's wonderful.
Yep. Okay, I'm just getting things prepped up here over on my end, just sort of overlaying the the browser window for right now. So there he is. That's Harlequin off to the left there with a left eye patch there. It would have been nice if his cape wasn't really covering over his outfit there, but yeah, um, the hairdo in this one is much different from what we see in the later episode that we're going to be discussing about. But yeah, so that's Harlequin right there in a nutshell. But yeah, as far as Dublion, it's a pretty unique monster. I think as far as like any of the kaiju movies or TV shows that we've seen, that this is probably the only monster that I can think of that has like two faces on one head, like spits out. I'm not sure if it's just regular water on one head or face.
It has to be like a gasoline, I think.
Either
I
that,
thought it was gasoline.
either that, and then the other face breathes out fire and everything.
You might be right, actually. It could be water. It could be an elemental type of creature.
Yeah, yeah, and the fight between Dublion and Giant Robot. I think it doesn't last too terribly long. Maybe at least a few minutes. Where Giant Robot throws him near the hideout, and then laser beams the hideout, destroying the mountain along with it, and burying Dublion in the process.
That's a cheap way of doing it. Yeah, because I
Cheap
got
way of
confused. I'm like,
defeating
there's
a monster.
well, I'm like, this is a giant creature. Like, I wouldn't think burying it in rock would actually stop it. But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, but other than that, this episode is at least it's a pretty decent episode there, and it's I would say it's probably one of the better episodes that we have in this few in the 3 episode thing that we have here. Yeah, of course we get the Kennys in here, Kenny or Kennys. A pretty decent uh, bout between Dublion and Giant Robo, and then we get at least, um, from my understanding, one of the reoccurrences of one of the henchmen for Emperor Guillotine and Harlequin here. So, other than that, I would say my rating for this episode would be a 7 out of 10.
okay. My final thought and rating is this: this particular episode reveals a secondary villain whom I had completely forgotten about, Harlequin. Maybe there's a reason for that, as this villain is not as impressive in the slightest. Wait a minute, that goes against everything I just said.
Way to go.
Well, I changed my mind. I do think he's pretty cool. Despite him, this episode is fairly entertaining given how Robo is involved pretty early and continues through the end. It's a bit strange and confusing how Dublion is destroyed, but again, I go with it. I know now, though. It's a decent episode, but mildly forgettable at the same time. 6 out of 10. That completely, in more ways than not, kind of goes against most of what I just said.
That's probably a first for you.
For this particular one, I still stand by the 6 out of 10. It wasn't overly impressive. It was decent, but
Hmm.
that's weird. I've never had that happen before.
The first time ever on Daikaiju Network.
Yeah. All right, episode 9. Here's the English title: Tentaclon, an electric monster. The Japanese title: Sparky, the electric current monster. Which which one do you prefer?
uh, if I want to be at least non-trollish in a way and be a little bit more serious, I'd probably go with Tentaclon.
Is that final answer?
Yes.
I like both. I think Tentaclon makes it sound more badass than Sparky.
Yeah.
Um,
Sparky is more
but I'm
like a
going
kid. Well, obviously this is a kid show, but to me it's a little bit too kiddish for me.
Tentaclon is the better name. But here's the thing. I will say Tentaclon is better, but I'm going with Sparky the Electric Current Monster just because it's so silly. But I do not think it is the
Obviously.
better title of the episode. Okay, so here is the plot summary of the episode. Emperor Guillotine reinitiates Dr. Botanist with the Gargoyle Gang. 60,000 people go missing at a soccer game as a result of Tentaclon. These hostages are used as a bargaining chip. Unicorn doesn't give up Japan as Guillotine demands in exchange for the hostages. Botanist realizes he's being followed by Unicorn. One member of the Gargoyle Gang is upset his brother is one of the 60,000 people held hostage. He's eventually killed for trying to save his brother. Johnny calls in Robo. Robo is temporarily out until it launches a missile. Robo throws Tentaclon and that somehow destroys it. The end. This one, I again do remember watching as I was watching it.
Yeah, I do remember
This,
some parts of it, particularly when it gets towards the end. There, where one of the gargoyle game members, all of a sudden just turns on the game simply because his brother was part of the hostages. There
I remember
and
the soccer field.
that too, and it's just what's the thing? Um, oh gosh. Now I just lost my train of thought. uh,
Well,
Go ahead.
well, one of the things I have down is with Botanist back. What does that mean? Was Botanist killed and revived, or was he defeated and Guillotine allowed him back into Gargoyle? We're never told specifically.
I'd probably say maybe at least punished or something like some sort of off-screen sort of ordeal there.
And again, we're never told, and you know,
Obviously, yeah. At least so far, Commander Spider hasn't showed up. So so far so good.
yeah, a unicorn.
But
D-
yeah, it's oh yeah, one of the things like when it gets towards the end there with one of the gargoyle game members turns on them. I mean, I'm not sure why like the other gargoyle game members just sort of gain up like just turn against him right away or like at least try to appease him. Even with Dr. Button is like you you shut up or
oh,
anything.
so your brother's a hostage, eh?
Yeah.
Kill him.
Yeah, it's like if you want to at least keep one of your members on board or something, at least just try to let one of his family members go.
Yeah, I mean, this is a strange episode because a lot of people look stupid. For example, Dr. Botanist looks stupid after realizing he's been tailed after finding out he was already being tailed. Um, because he looks surprised. Like he knew Unicorn was following him, but then when they get out of the car and they find the tracking transmitter, he's surprised, even though he knew he was being followed.
Well, I know that they had like a listening device in that little tape recorder that they brought over. Try to make a deal with Unicorn there. It, I don't know. I don't think I really saw him that surprised, but the one thing that he did, I noticed when he he had an idea to use that tracking device that Johnny put on the car as a means to sort of trap them in a ways or to kind of gain up on them in a specific area to let them follow them into like that.
Trap him.
Yeah, in that cliffside area where they round up in, and then being chasing them in that cemetery there.
Well, And again, you know how last episode we talked about how ridiculous Unicorn is with its security and all that. Unicorn continues its inability to be a very effective organization because that tracking device was barely, just barely underneath the bumper.
And
I
it's
mean, you could
and it's
see
so
it.
huge too. I mean, like
Yeah.
maybe have some sort of small little uh, pen size thing and maybe just put it like underneath like the motor or something of the sort instead of just like barely just underneath where the trunk is.
I mean, you might as well have thrown the tracking device on the windshield.
Yeah.
I mean, might as well. I mean, the stupid thing
Or
could
just on the
easily be.
door handle for that matter.
It just was dumb, and like I write here, I still don't trust Unicorn's ability to save the world because they can't do spy
Or
stuff
or
effectively.
or at least just this sector of Unicorn.
Japan's screwed then. What do you make of Tentaclon? I think this is a really neat kaiju.
It's
I do like
it's
him
really neat. It's
or
for
it.
some reason the design sort of reminds me of some sort of scarecrow hat, which just comes into mind. But then it also reminds me of the Gora in a way, the way how it comes in with uh, spewing out this black dark cloud in the sky and then swooping in and just sort of the mannerism of Tentaclon is sort of
Here, I'm getting
like
a picture here.
Dagora uh, in a way, but yeah, as far as Tentaclon, um, kidnapping all the like 60,000 hostages in the soccer stadium. I'm not sure how he managed to just
We're not supposed to ask, but you know what? That to me makes more sense than just the ridiculousness of Unicorn being incompetent and Dr. Botanist being surprised that he was being tracked after he already knew he was being tracked. Just, and again, I understand this. You're on my cord, bud. I understand this is a kid show, but still, I just, that sort of thing irritates me.
yeah.
you know?
Okay, let me get this on uh, image here taken care of. There we go. And oops, hit done, and then transition. There you go. So that up in the upper right corner, that is Tentaclon. There, just I'm guessing that is above the airport later on in the episode there, where
I think so too, yeah.
destroying parts of the airport and then confronting giant Robo there towards the end. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it just reminds me of Dagora there in a way, so to speak.
Yeah, I do, and I do like the Dogora. Even though I'm not a huge fan of the movie, I do like the look of that particular kaiju. And yeah, this is very similar.
Hmm. Yeah, but anyways, I see. I'm trying to think of anything else here.
I've got a couple of things here. If you,
Yeah, why don't you go ahead here?
I thought the gargoyle member trying to save his brother. Um, I thought him being he was saved just long enough to help out Unicorn.
It's always
They
that
give him
way.
his hat back. They give him his hat back though. Like I just thought that was kind of just like he didn't have his hat, and then the next shot he's got his hat back. Just like here you go, pal.
But yeah, it's like it's one of these things with
it just. Oh.
it's one of these things when it comes to these type of shows where they like you mentioned they live long enough to at least give the protagonist the right amount of information to know where to locate all the
Yep.
hostages and then deactivate the bomb. But then, as far as far as the 60,000 hostages, how did they at least manage to get them underground in this isolated island? I'm guessing around Tokyo Bay here. Like, I mean, you got this uh, hatchet, like the hatch thing. Yes, I know. That's really small in this hideout bunker area. And yes, I know it's a kid show, blah blah blah, science, who
Personal
cares?
foul, asking too many logical questions on the co-host in Minnesota.
Shut up. But yeah, that's probably one of the things. So
Well, you know, I think the I think the episode is still fairly entertaining, despite the fact we don't have much in the way of Tentaclon and a giant Robo.
Giant Robo, he
Um,
essentially comes in like towards the end of the like each
yeah,
episodes, anyways.
yeah. Um, it, the thing is that I really believe that this episode it set things up, but my biggest issue comes with the ending. Everything with the ending comes so fast, and everything is contrived, obviously, for time constraint
Hmm.
purposes. I felt like this should have been a two-part episode because there would have been, I think, a pretty darn good story. I mean, 60,000 people. 60,000 people. That's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. But like, this is some serious stuff, and I think there was enough here to do a two-parter. And for whatever reason, they just decided they just decided not to. And I just think the ending. I'm really disappointed with this ending, quite honestly, because
Yeah, he
despite Botnus looking stupid and Unicorn looking stupid at various points in the first two-thirds or so of the episode, um, it was still pretty entertaining for the most part, and I was willing to, by and large, go with it. But then once they realized, oh crap, like the episode is almost ready to be over with, we need to like wrap this thing up. That's where I have a lot of
hmm
issues with it. I feel like we are robbed of a very good fight between Robo and a pretty cool kaiju, and the kaiju, wasn't even in the episode all that much to begin
Yeah, it
with.
just seemed like once Giant Robo comes in, he just grabs Tentaclon, just throws him down the ground and explodes. That's about it. But
Yeah, and I mean, despite with the exception of Tentaclon, who I think is a cool kaiju, but we don't get enough of him. I really believe that the only bright spot of this episode is the return of Dr. Botanus.
and speaking of Dr. Botnus and that whole cemetery scene, what did you think of? I don't think I've seen this sort of ability before up until this point. What did you think of him
What did
regrowing arms?
Oh no! Okay, that I can't believe I forgot to put that in my notes. I don't. I didn't think he grew arms. I thought he had like dummy arms or something.
I'm not sure.
That to me is what it looked like. To me, it looked like dummy arms.
I think he just has the ability to like regrow parts of his body and everything. Just
It's like what is it? What is it? A gecko that can grow its tail back? I
something
think
like that. But yeah, it also reminds
he's like a gecko or whatever reptile
it.
will detach a body part and
It
regrow
also
it.
reminds me.
If that's
It also reminds me of Piccolo from the Dragon Ball Z franchise, where if one of his body parts gets blown off or cut off and stuff, he has the ability to regrow those body parts.
yeah, I cannot believe I forgot about
Yeah.
that because that was something I was going to mention and I didn't.
Yeah. The
Brings back
yeah
memories.
the little chat that Kent sent over.
Dragon. But anyways, I can't believe I forgot about that. I meant to write that down, and I guess I was so
I
involved with
also
how the
I also
episode
like how
ended.
it just like sticks on one of the pillars or something. I'm not sure if it was like a concrete or a wooden pillar, like his arm there when he throws it.
Crazy.
And then
That's one of the reasons why I love Dr.
yeah, but then
Botness.
also one of the weird things is when he gets cornered at that one little monument that's I'm guessing in the middle of the cemetery there, and you have everyone like all the unicorn people like basically around this thing. It's like a circular type of monument, and he's on one side, but you would think when he is when he escapes from this, throwing something down and then completely disappears, you would think one of these guys from the other side would have noticed that he's gone, but then it's like, where'd he go?
Again, I don't trust Unicorn. I just don't. And again, to talk about the ending, I don't like the way it ends because it's brief and stupid. Tentaclon is thrown and destroyed, really? Like, that's it? Another throw and destroy?
Yeah, basically, it's just like the last episode where Giant Robo throws Dublion down and then destroys the hideout on the mountain in the mountainside there with his eye lasers and then buries them. By the way, I also liked how how all those rocks just like comes from the air, just buries Dublion. But yeah, it's essentially the same thing in these two episodes where Giant Robo throws the monster and then explodes or dies or whatever for
Yeah,
whatever
because
reason.
yeah, I mean, going through this with a more critical eye, again, because that's kind of what we feel like our obligation is when we discuss things on this podcast. Um, I become sort of more disappointed with a lot of the conclusions of these fights. Um, you might as well not even have a fight. You might as well have what's his name from Iron King, the cowboy guy, come in and just save the day. I mean, I find it very disappointing
Hmm.
with how these fights conclude.
Yeah, yeah. But other than that, it's at least a an okay show, or I would say a decent episode in a way. Also, sort of liked how Doctor Botness acted within the first half of it, and then also including the whole cemetery scene there with him. But other than that, a little the fight for this episode was a little bit of a like a downer in a way. It was pretty quick. Um, yeah, it was a pretty fast episode. I wish there could have been more. Like you said, it should have been at least a two-parter, so to speak. But when it comes to this episode, I'll at least give it a 6 out of 10.
Warning: as I go into my final thoughts about this episode and the next episode, I'm not too kind. This episode becomes entertaining as a result of Botness returning. Otherwise, little is done over the course of the episode to bring about incredible action. I still, though, find the character's mission mildly interesting despite myself knowing exactly what is happening. The final battle is pretty piss poor, and the worst part about it, given the fact that Tentaclon seems to be a formidable foe. But time constraints prevented us from having a good fight. Why wasn't this a two-parter? This ending sequence is what gives this episode negative uber points, despite most of it being mildly decent. It's still fun, but we're devoid of anything really fun at the end. 3 out of 10.
Wow, 3 out of 10. Jeez. And I thought I was a bit harsh.
You thought I was harsh there.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. Episode 10, our last episode for this podcast. The English title is called The Transformed Humans, and the Japanese title is called The Reconstructed Man. Jason, which one do you prefer?
Boy, I was kind of hoping for something a lot better for the Japanese version because I know this was one of the other episodes episode titles that I thought was going to be much better. But no, it's sort of hard to pick now. Gosh, for me, I probably would prefer the English version for this one,
The
especially
thing about
with the way how the episode progresses and what they do to at least a couple of the people that I would say at least brainwashed.
Yeah, I would say this time, quite honestly, the English title gets it more accurate in terms of what actually happens. This is sort of the exact opposite effect of what we saw with episode
Hmm.
8, where the English title was completely wrong in terms of its wording and sort of what that was about. About. Sound like a teen going through puberty. And the Reconstructed Man sounds cool. I mean, both titles I think sound cool. But again, like with episode 8, words mean things, okay? You can't just throw anything in there and have it mean the same thing.
Right.
Reconstruction is different than
It's it's
transformed.
it's like if you were doing the reconstructed man, it'd be almost
Like he's blown apart and he's pieced back
that
together.
or something along the lines of Inframan.
Something like that too. Yeah. Transform means you're whole, but you're turning it into something different. Like, obviously. Why are we even discussing that? But
Well, I'm
anyways,
just trying to make a point here.
for, yeah, I would say the more accurate title is the English title. So, yeah. Okay, so here's a plot summary of episode 10. Our famous Arabian robot is on the loose again, somehow, this time kidnapping Mr. Suzuki. Suzuki is under the control of Botanist and Harlequin via mind control. Jerry and Johnny are taken hostage by Botanist. Botanist calls out his robot and Johnny calls out his. Apparently, throwing the robot head over heels into water is enough to destroy it again. Robo saves Jerry and Johnny long after 20 seconds is up from the bomb. The end.
Yeah, with this episode, I sort of totally forgot that what was the name of this monster again? I know I've got it down. The
I've
full name of it. Lygon Tyrox or just Tyrox.
Bygone Tyros. Yep.
Um yeah, it's like even though it's been a little over a year since I've last watched Johnny's this TV show, that I totally forgot that Tyrox comes back and if for whatever reason, even though it was completely destroyed in the last episode that I appeared in. But
Yeah.
I like to the first scene where he swallows up an entire train, even with the like it seems like the sizing just gets really like just gets thrown out the window here. Even with I would say since uh the first episode that we discussed for this for our episode here, episode 8, where like everything was just like like when Dublion and Giant Robo were fighting each other, they were inside a mountain, and then once they crashed or like get out from the mountain, they were much larger than the mountain itself. It's like sizing doesn't really just really gets thrown out the window. It's like physics doesn't really exist in this universe at this point.
No, and again, kid
But
show.
but with
Um,
this one here, like the train was just really small compared to Tyrox, but then like just from other shots here and there, it was probably a good size for it to where like how would a train just like get swallowed up by Tyrox?
Here's the thing, and I'm going to sort of, in a sense, and I still want to talk about certain points that I have written down here, but in a nutshell, this episode is a complete and total disaster for many reasons. Um, For example, I think it's incredibly pathetic that Unicorn isn't more helpful in rescuing Johnny and Jerry. I mean, for fuck's sake, that's part of their job. And not a single fucking one of them comes to try to even aid
Hmm.
them. They're basically on their own.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's ridiculous.
And
Um,
also this is the episode where Dr. Botnus and Harlequin meet up for the first time here, and as well as teaming up. And this is also where Harlequin, at least his dub voice, is changed, and as well as his hairdo compared to what we've shown you a little bit ago. His hairdo
it's
is
longer.
at least a little bit longer and maybe a little bit more wildish, and I would probably say puffed up more.
Here's the thing, though, and this is another issue I have with the episode. Harlequin is useless.
Hmm.
He more or less stands around, sort of takes orders from Botanist, but by and large, he's just standing there beside Botanist most of
It
the
just
time, just
it
scowling.
almost felt like whoever wrote this episode, it just seemed like that they didn't quite know what to do with certain characters or where to go about with this
He's
episode.
not
Yeah,
needed.
yeah, he was
That's the
basically
thing, because
useless.
Botanist led the he led everything with the diabolical plan uh, implemented in this
Hmm.
episode. Um, yeah, I mean, they should have kept Harlequin out.
Yeah,
You know, it just
that I would say the only best use of him was when he was disguised as one of the waiters at the hotel there, bringing him uh, Jerry and Johnny those two drinks, and then but then it just sort of goes downhill from there, where they easily spot Dr. Botnus at the window there, and then blah blah blah. He turns into Harlequin, just like that, for no reason.
more fake arms
Yeah,
too,
two of them for that
back to
matter.
back. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, it's as if he expected Johnny and Jerry to grab the briefcase. It was pretty funny how Botanist did that again.
Yeah, but yeah, that whole scene there with Harlequin just coming in, and then with the drinks, but then with the appearance of Botnus, yeah, he was basically useless in this episode.
Well, yeah, and Harlequin was only under disguise for maybe 30 seconds in the hotel room.
Yeah,
It was ridiculous. It was pathetic,
yeah,
and I'm very
there was
disappointed in
really
that.
no reason for him to disguise himself, or even be in the episode for that matter, when Dr. Botnus comes right at the window there, and then just casually walks in, steals the briefcase, and that was it.
Right.
Even though eventually the briefcase was just full of more fake stuff.
Outside of the fake arm moment, the only other good thing I really liked about this episode was the interrogation scene Botanist has with Suzuki and how he's wrapped up Suzuki in Christmas lights. Not only was it silly, but at the same time, I also thought it looked pretty horrific. Like it was very
Well,
creepy
just that
and stuff
shot
too.
with when they were interrogating Suzuki there, it. I would say that's probably the best part of that episode. Just that whole scene itself.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
yeah. Even with my rating here, I'm probably gonna have to change it. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. But anyways, we ready for final
Yeah,
thoughts?
it, I'm not sure what else to say about this episode in a way. Even with the return of Ligon Tyrax, or Tyrax for short, um, I'm not sure what actually happened to Tyrax. Did he get thrown? I'm trying to think.
He was thrown into the
Yeah,
water.
three
That was
three
it.
episodes in a row. Just giant robo throws a monster or a robot. That's the end of it. So that's basically the entire theme of this episode. We're just giant robo throws a monster, and that was it of that monster. And Yeah, and then also Harlequin was basically useless in this episode. I mean, there was really no need for him. Whoever wrote this episode should have rethought of what they're actually of what they really wanted to use Harlequin for. Otherwise, they should have just left him out in this episode completely. It, I've got nothing else to say. Even though my original rating was 5 out of 10, I'm probably just going to say 3 out of 10.
Oh, wow. And like I said, you thought I was harsh the last time. Listen to this. Another mildly entertaining episode given the fact that Botanist is involved. The rest of the episode, however, is just garbage for the most part. There is little story and substance here to really carry the day, and Unicorn Bean, for whatever reason, to help rescue Jerry and Johnny, is a huge black eye to this episode and the rest of the Unicorn organization. Sorry, but I'm tired of the supposed ineptitude by Unicorn at this point. 0 out of 10.
Wow.
I've sort of hit my limit with Unicorn, and yeah, this whole three episode retrospective that we've done here, 8 through 10, weren't necessarily some of the strongest episodes. They had some fun, interesting moments, but I would argue, with the exception of episode 8, by and large, the episodes really were
I
terrible
thought
for the
I
most
thought it
part.
was at least going to be consistent, but nope, not really. And at least right now we're halfway through disc 2 on this at this point.
Yeah, so yeah.
I'm
But anyway, I do think on some level it's going to get
yeah,
better.
I'm
We just kind of hit a rough
I'm hoping
patch here. In fact, I'm telling you right now, I know this for a fact because my son wanted to watch the episode after this because he enjoys the series. I'm telling you right now, Dracolon makes a return.
and I hope that
No. I watched a little bit of it with him. I think we're gonna start at least with one episode. Have a pretty. We're gonna return.
well, and that's what I was saying.
To some,
I hope that we go on the upswing after this episode.
at least with one we
Yeah.
are. The others I can't say. But so do we want to come back and do episodes 11 through 13 on October 10th?
I really can't think of anything that would get in the way at that moment.
Okay, so October 10th, episodes 11, 12, and 13 of Johnny Sokko and his flying robot. And by that point, we will be halfway through the series.
Man, hard to believe that that's that that's the case.
I thought this was going to take 8 months. I think we'll probably be done. Let's see, that'll be October. We'll probably be done in January, maybe.
At the rate that we're going at.
At the wait.
But otherwise, I'm guessing we're basically done.
We are. Yes, we are. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for everybody for listening and watching to this episode. We hope that you enjoyed it, and we will see you in a couple weeks when we talk about 3 more episodes of Johnny Sokko and his flying robot.
And before we sign out here, I just want to point out again, as far as our streaming and podcast networks here, our streaming networks: YouTube, Twitch, Facebook Live, Periscope, and D Live, and as in our podcast networks: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and TuneIn. And then you can also like and subscribe to us at these following social media networks. Just search for Daikaiju Network. And you can find us at our own website over at daikaijunetwork.com. So thanks for watching, everyone. And we'll see you guys on October 10th for episodes 11 through 13 of Johnny Sokko and his flying robot.
All right.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.